Hit the record button. Okay. Call to order the Finance Committee meeting for December 8th? 8th. And it's now 6:02. You'd all stand and pledge to the flag, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, in attendance tonight, I'm here, yes. Dave Rathgeb, to my left.
Warren Small.
Dane Antonio. Oh, you just say to your right. Richard.
Well, I was going around the horn there, so. All right, Mr. Small.
Okay, first item on the agenda, 1718 preliminary budget presentation. This is the proverbial scratch before itch presentation. I'll tell you everything I know, and we'll move forward from there. Actually, what I'd like to do first is take you to the back of the report, back 3 pages, 2 or 3 pages. Start with the second from the last. Local revenue. Just some points of reference. Our local assessment this year is up by about a little over 17 million for a total assessment. We're basing it on right now with the most recent adjustments of $1,081,455,000. So a mill this year, 98% collection, is $1,059,060,000. The adjusted index this year is 3.3%, providing for maximum millage to the index of 0.98 mil, or nearly 1 mil, over the current 29.7 mils, or that, if that were exercised, would generate $1,038,000 additional revenue. Additionally, at this point, without formal PDE approval, it appears that there is one exception that we would be eligible for, which is PSERS, and that would drive out about 0.2 mil additional, which would give you a total of 30.87 mils total available with where you are currently, plus exception, or plus index, plus exception. Flip to the back page, we'll give you the good news we received this morning. PSERS board met yesterday and set the rate for next year, the 17-18 year. Came in at 32.57%, which in our case was actually 2.5% higher than what we had in 16-17. It's about, depending on what report you looked at, we were using just under 31% in our preliminary work. Other places it was at 32, but PASBO was very quick to point out this morning that this is easily 0.5 percentage point higher than anybody anticipated. So it's impacting budgets all over the state in a grand way tonight. This actually, when you compare it to last year's rate, is about $580,000 additional over, equivalent to roughly 0.5 mil because of this increase.
Well, why was everybody surprised the way the performance was from last year?
Well, that was their argument today. They said that the fund only returned 1.29% through June 30th last year. So as a result, they had to go to 32.57. So moving forward then, we thought this 32% area was the plateau. That's where things were going to stabilize at. So who knows what ensuing years are going to be. But I put all that out there initially. Local revenue and the PSERS issue. State revenue, they also put an email out from PASBO today with the dramatic decrease in projected revenue at the state level halfway through the year, and their anticipated shortfall for year end. They're saying hang on for a bumpy ride as far as getting a budget for next year. They're already, of course, back on the table for tax reform and elimination of property tax and all the rest. So it's not going to be a good year as we move forward for the 17-18 year.
For the record, let me understand, let me see if I understand this correctly. Our PSERS payments next year, and that's the retirement line, correct?
Yes,
Is $650,000 more than this year? Yet our exception only allows us enough for $200,000.
that's the
So
way
somehow we're
the,
supposed to eat the other $450,000.
that's the way the formula works. It doesn't
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that correctly.
Is that increase, though, our full freight, or is that half of that go to the state still?
Well, this $580,000 increase over last year,
Yeah.
that's the gross.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
You presume every year that they're going to legislate or reimbursement to you. I was criticized for the statement I made recently that it's never happened. Well, a lot has never happened.
Now, I'm only asking, though, looking at the line item on the budget.
Okay, you're on,
I'm on 17-18, the increased retirement over 16-17.
Right, so it's 655,000 higher
Right.
And
in the budget.
that's in the expenses, that's still half of that we get back, so to speak.
yeah, you look at the,
Okay,
That's
so
the
that's
straight gross.
328,000 we get back, or that we're still paying, but we can only have an exception for 200,000.
Exactly.
and like I said, this is as preliminary as it gets. The timeline under Act 1 is to either adopt a resolution stating that you will not exceed the 3.3% index for taxation in 17-18, or adopt a preliminary budget. And the deadline for that is January 26th. So what I have prepared tonight is the budget as we have put it together currently, based on where we are contractually with salaries, and obviously now how we're impacting the PSERS, plus the building and department level budgets as received. So if you go down through this hard copy I gave you, in the building/function, you will see the 15-16 actual, 16-17 budget, 17-18 budget with the variance of projected 17-18 over current 16-17. And as I stated, this is just the way we received it from the buildings. And any
Mr.
questions?
Rathgeb, if I may, for the record, this is the first look at the preliminary budget for 17-18. I want it on record that I'm disappointed that neither the superintendent nor the assistant superintendent nor any of the building principals are here to support these numbers that are being thrown in front of us.
It is on the record, Mr. Martino.
So, those are the submittals. That is what is reflected in the preliminary budget on the 5-year study. Now, what's reflected on the 5-year study under 17-18 for millage is what I rehearsed with current millage of 29.7 plus index plus exception for the total of 30.87. I did not modify the millage moving forward in the 3 final years. I'll be emailing this. This is the same worksheet that I sent to you that enables you to do whatever you want to do with millage and run out the numbers. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, typically in the past, you would not have put that increase in there, right?
No, but last year, I initially came forward with not to exceed resolution, and the response was, but we want all of our options. So what I'll have on the Cow agenda in January are 2 resolutions to be considered at the voting meeting. One, not to exceed the index, and one for a preliminary budget, which, without changes between now and then, will be what you see here. It'll be in PDE format, but it will be the numbers that are here unless there's some
I mean,
adjustments made.
I think as far as my preference, I don't want to speak for everybody else, but when I'm looking at the 5-year, I think I would prefer to keep the millage the same without that increase in there, just so I could see what the total
Okay, go to the 3rd page from the end.
3rd page.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
3 scenarios. First column's 29.7 mils, your current millage. Second column, middle column, center column, 30.68 mils, which is current plus to the index. Final column, mills with exception. Okay?
Yep.
That's in line with what you were thinking about?
Yeah.
Okay, so, as I stated, when I send this to you, you can put any
Sure,
number in any
yeah.
year you want to and drive out but the numbers that are reflected in the 17-18 column on the 5-year study are what should be, we didn't make an error, what's on that scenario page there. Okay?
Hey, Lauren,
Yes, sir.
the special ed budget is the only one that has a really large variance. Do you know what the reason for that is? Not that it's, apparently it's a good guy,
I don't, and back to Mr. Martino's comment, my suggestion, we should be having the finance committee the first Thursday of January, correct, Mr. Rathke?
yeah, I don't know if you guys saw this, but,
I saw it.
it's $1 million less than the 16-17 budget, which, out of a total budget of, 2.7 million, $1 million less, that's a huge percentage, so it could be right, I just,
Like I
Well, the
said,
question is, line 500 is other, and that's where the $1 million decline is.
right,
But without her here to explain it, I don't know what other is.
right, I just noticed that it was.
And, it's a shame that other is the biggest category. I mean, that's really kind of,
but we are planning to have a finance committee meeting the first Thursday of January, Mr. Rathke?
I would suspect, yes.
So I'm saying, with that in mind, that will be the Thursday night prior to the cow. And all interested parties here, vested parties, should be here that night to answer questions.
Okay,
Agree?
yes.
Yeah, because I have questions about several of these. I mean,
Well, you can certainly email me your questions in the meantime, and I'll forward them
now
on.
the questions aren't for you, they're for the
No,
building
but
principals.
to Kathleen or to myself, and we'll forward them on, and they can spend Christmas Eve working. But nevertheless, this is as presented. As I said earlier, it's pretty preliminary, but that's where we're at right now.
Were the building principals given direction to cut?
That would be something that would have to be answered by the superintendent and assistant superintendent. I don't know. We forwarded the aggregate budget off to them. So this is where we are. There is one building that we did have concern on, that we didn't get a response today, did you, Kathleen?
Yeah, I took it off.
Oh, you did? We were told to take it off? Okay. That was since I was, all right. So, to answer your question, it sounds like we did get involved and make at least one thing.
And I was focused on that, and I actually thought that $1 million was going another way.
Really?
I thought it was going the other way, I didn't realize it was.
Well, we'll double check. The 17, 18, the million, 152, 100 is what was submitted on our worksheet. All right, we'll verify, and since the question did come up specifically on 1,200 special ed,
I'm gonna
we'll get
verify
answers.
that myself.
We'll get answers. Okay?
I mean, it just seemed, it's a big line item, right?
Yes, it is.
That's where.
That's why we get, quite frankly, that's part of the reason I like to do it in hard copy. Because you don't have to look at it, instead of looking at a screen.
I mean, I'm
I'm
not,
definitely.
Any other questions on the expense
I'm
side?
not being trying to feel that way.
Okay.
No, it's all good.
Format or otherwise, I mean, I can't answer specific questions, but if you want something formatted differently, if you want me to present something to the board differently than I have,
I'm sure, Mr. Okosanil, Mr. Martino have probably had the same question about the central office supplies, since we've only used $500 to date, yet there's $228,000 budgeted. Or I'm sorry, yeah, 16 actual was 500 versus the budget of 228.
what's he got in his 2266?
Oh, the 600 series is not just supplies, they got 640, which are books. That is where his book budget
It's
is?
the textbook.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
that falls under, that's not our office. That's the
Okay.
superintendent,
That's the
assistant
superintendent,
superintendent.
yeah,
Yeah, but
curriculum.
for this January meeting, I'd like each principal and each department head to explain the variance in each line item from 15-16, 16-17 to 17-18. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to these numbers. They're up and down all over the place. And especially BEC, which lost third grade this year, you would have think their budget would have been way lower. And next year, scheduled to lose fourth grade, it doesn't seem like it's corresponding to enrollment.
Okay? Now, I did, and I continue to refine it. Not sure if I mentioned this at the last meeting. I did base transportation on the RFP as we're moving forward, but there's a possibility of making some further adjustments there.
While we're on the topic of transportation, since Mr. Ogosanil's here, and most of the folks who I know you see part of the main increase was all the buses were now going to have cameras. Is that
That's
correct?
in the RFP.
Yeah.
There's three drivers to the new contract. One is we've tightened up the age of bus. They're going to be required to have newer buses than the old contract. And mandatory video surveillance on all buses rather than just 3. And child notification alarm systems on all buses.
Right.
Plus, this year's budget, or the RFP, includes charges for midday runs, doesn't it?
Yes.
Whereas the past contract didn't.
It
So that-
wasn't in- it
So that would
wasn't-
show an increase.
that wasn't in the contract, correct.
And are we working out the, because we provide the diesel, right?
Correct.
But the gas, they just have gas cards, is that correct?
The contract has a clause stating that each contractor's, the district will provide each contractor with gas credit cards for all gasoline vehicles.
Right. So they just buy that retail, not at prices we could technically,
Then we file for the tax based on our purchases on those cards to get a refund for state tax.
but will that new software be able to tell us if we're indeed having the correct purchases for gas, or kind of match it up a little bit?
The new software,
They don't want to know.
good question, Marvin, as far as, I'm going to say no.
Yeah, that would be my,
That the new software is geared primarily for optimization of revenue. But
we did look at trying to come up with a way to, like we do, deliver the diesel in bulk, to deliver
the
gas for the gasoline vehicles in bulk, but it would require a tank, and quite frankly, the cost of the tank would offset the gas savings for so long that it wasn't really,
Amity only has diesel, right? They don't have,
I believe so.
Yeah.
If you have any guess, I was surprised that they weren't going diesel, and then Mr. Potts indicated to us the other night that because of the new emissions restrictions on gasoline engines, and many of the smaller buses especially, are going back to gasoline from diesel, because it's the high maintenance cost.
yeah.
Lauren, 2380 principal, what is that?
That would be the offices of the principals themselves. Each building has a principal's budget for supplies.
And this is separate from their individual school budgets.
Yes, there's an
Correct.
educational side, and then there's the Office of Educational, be all in the 111110 account, which would be directly related to the students. And then they have the other side, which is the principal's office.
Well, since this is for the principals, do you have a breakdown to show who's getting a $103,000 increase?
We can do a breakdown by building and make it a part of it. Because each building is,
It didn't copy over that. That was at 80,000.
that's gone now.
Yeah,
83,
that was just, me and Mr.
So it's
Hurley
only
were just
$20,000.
discussing that. It's only a $20,000
Right.
increase. The 83,000 was something that we had, was going back and forth all day. That's going to be removed.
I'd still like to see it broken down
By building.
by building.
You can do it.
Something like that, right?
Okay, we've got the educational side broken down.
Yes,
So
the
we simply-
educational
we'll
side
take
is
the
just
2380
breaking out the
and-
2380, yes. I can do that.
Any other requests?
How are things shaping up as far as what the cost for GCA are turning out to be?
Well, we have not, let me back up. GCA bills us monthly,
And they,
1/12 of the contract.
right, but
We have not
we-
fully paid a month yet because they have not provided the full hours by contract. So
So are you still budgeting full hours, I guess?
pretty much,
Yeah.
we took this is a 3-year contract, and we used the numbers for the second year of the contract was identical to the first.
Lauren, with regard to the refinance, we obviously just have a placeholder in there for that, I'm assuming, in there for,
I reduced the debt service number per the projected numbers here 3 weeks ago from RBC Capital, which is still averaging $760,000 per year. So that savings is reflected for 3 years here, for 17, 18, or 4 years, 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21. For the 17, 18 year, your debt service figure of the 5,851, 295 does reflect the $760,000 savings.
okay, so it does look like a projected savings.
Yep.
Thank you.
And that's well in motion, completed the official statement. Documentation today, have a bond rating call scheduled for the 19th or 20th, I'm not sure which, week before Christmas at any rate. so as to keep moving with wrapping that up, probably early February.
And we still have no word from Birdsboro as far as potential tax, you know.
Got an email that said it's forthcoming, I haven't received it. When it does, I'll put it in.
And even then, none of that's for this coming year, right?
I don't believe so. I think it's out, most recently, the 1920 year.
Has there been a conversation at all with Mr. Harrison, Mr. Hurley about staffing next year?
No. Waiting for enrollment data.
I was just going to say, the other night, Mr. Harris said the enrollment data was available. I haven't seen any yet, but we're going to need that to talk about staffing.
I conveyed my concern that that be forthcoming on a regular basis, because it's got to be in lockstep with budget prep. At one point, we made a comment that we wanted to know by March where we were at, rather than June. And
Who does the enrollment?
it's done, the offices in the high school for the hiring of a new person.
And is another thing to put on Mr. Harris's plate, I'd also like to know, I know the conversation has gone forward now with potentially moving administration to high school. But has there been any conversation with River Rock as far as any potential increase in, or any monies actually now coming instead of placements?
So you agree that
Negotiation of-
their next rental agreement should include actually paying rent?
Well, I mean, they're going to take over the other half of this building.
I even think even with their current, I mean, let's say they allow us 15 spots and we only have 7 students, we're losing money.
Yeah, it should be, we could work out some kind of arrangement where maybe it's a ratio or either or something, yeah.
Anything else? Feel free to shoot me an email if you want to see something. I'll email this out to Kathleen and add this breakdown on the principal budgets. And we'll send it to the full board because it's going to be on account.
Yeah, and if you could send out the 5-year again, but like I said, pull that, put the current millage in there.
We'll do.
And that way all the members can see it, and obviously they can adjust it however they wish, so they can monkey around with it and see what's what.
Yes.
So,
The reason I did that tonight was that column will be the formation of your preliminary budget moving forward, assuming that when the board votes for a preliminary budget as opposed to
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
exception. Okay?
Yeah, and when you send the email out, just in the email, just tell the board members what the potential millage increase is with, and then what the exception.
I will
You know,
spell it all out.
yeah.
Part of it's in this, but
Yeah.
I'll put out the details and I will share with them the fact that there will be 2 potential resolutions on Cal agenda for voting as a voting.
And what's the assumption, if indeed we do still close Birdsboro in 2 years hence, what's the potential
Savings.
savings?
It's been 2 years since we ran any facility cost numbers, but I'll dig that up.
Now, is that going to be, we're having that conversation in January? Do we have to have that next vote, correct?
The resolution adopted last year, January, February, the latest for effective.
Now, when we do the agenda for the January Cal, I'm going to insist that it be on there.
And we need to attach that resolution to refresh everybody's memory on the timetable.
Okay.
Like Brian Suter's relatively following on, I'm sure. Anything else?
Anything, Mr. Martino, from you?
Well, you mentioned the enrollment. The person that was Mary Ann Price that was doing that, right?
Mary Ann Price was your enrollment coordinator. Everything was central to
But her replacement has been hired now.
Yes.
Okay.
She's been here 2 weeks. Right? She's in place at the high school.
Getting yourself familiar with things.
Mrs. Hicks, just curious, have you heard any, through the grapevine, of any more potential retirements?
Well, just the one that was,
Mrs. Colby, yeah.
yeah,
She's on the agenda.
it's early to be talking about retirements already, because that's usually a decision.
Just kind of, maybe,
I can put out
maybe,
feelers, but I would, no, I don't know anything.
no, okay.
I'm not retired. Yeah, I'm not, sorry, I'll be here for a while.
No, I wasn't asking you personally, Mr. Just wondering if perhaps there was an opportunity to bring in some younger, lower paid teachers down the road.
You just said retirement instead of 51.
That's, it's always a possibility, right? Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Okos-O'Neill, did you have anything else that you had questions on? Okay. All right. So rental agreements. That's my item. So, as I think, as we all know, we currently have a pre-K counts class over at BEC, which is not being charged rent, which is fine, but in most cases they are charged rent, and the IU does pay rent on most of their facilities. So the question is, do we want to have a conversation about potentially charging rent? I mean, maybe the first year we wanted to give it a go, see what we got, how many students we got, whether it was going to be popular. So
I hear you say in most cases they are charged.
What facilities are they using in the building?
they're using a classroom or two, right? With
Yeah, they have at least one classroom. I don't even know what the numbers are, to be honest with you. I've not really seen any reports.
Mr. Martin. Was it 18? Was that?
Now you see why I sat
I
here.
think it's much smaller. I think the number's much smaller than that at this point.
Because that was part of. You would think I would know because that was just the presentation last week by Mary Beth Kiesel. Wasn't it 18? She said. No, does it ring a bell?
I remember hearing when it was just one.
Well, there's the pre-K counts, and there's also the enrichment program, which is at MEC.
Okay.
So that program only had and that one got off to a late start. They didn't get the IU did not get all the approvals till the year was already going. And obviously, if you're going to have childcare arrangements, you obviously would have those in place before your school year is underway.
Right.
But the pre-K counts is separate, and that's over at Birdsboro. So.
You asked a few minutes ago about the plan to incorporate Birdsboro students into Amity and Monocacy. And the savings from that were utilities, staff, administrative staff, and teachers. But the other side of the coin was revenue from the building. So Mr. Harris is going to need to understand that he's going to need to maximize the potential of that building as far as rental or sale. If rental, if we're going to retain the building. So you can't, I don't think you could have entities that usually pay rent every place else coming in here for free.
Mr. Cosenio?
I don't, okay, I agree with Mr. Martino about, trying, if the Birdsboro plan, if that plan to redistribute the kids over the next 2 years continues, that it certainly would be valuable to the district to either, find entities to lease the building or sell it. I agree with that. I feel less strongly about the pre-K, about this program, charging rent for that. I mean, I see both sides there. I just, there's a part of me that says as a service to the community. I mean, like, presumably if we charge rent for the enrichment program, then the rates become higher for whoever utilizes the program, right? Because they're going to transfer, the IU is going to transfer the cost onto the...
Well, when it comes to, for the pre-K, most of that money is coming from the state. And then, most of those kids, there is an income threshold. It's not a low number, but that they get assistance to send the kids there. So, would it get passed on? In most cases, probably not.
Not only that, Dave, if we're out of there, Mr. Harris has multiple ideas about things to go in there. If any of them come to fruition, who knows? But if we're out of there, you're still going to have utility usage, water, electricity, heat, and should we be paying that and collecting nothing in return for rent?
Yeah, like so, I see the argument side. I'm not saying I don't feel strongly about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to make a boatload of money from
Right.
from renting
That's
out.
why,
Yeah.
that's the angle from which I'm saying.
But I would agree with Mr. Martino if that building is empty down the road, and we're trying to save if there's nothing in there, and we own the building, we obviously do want to save money on utilities, and unfortunately, I can't see. I think it'd be hard because if we do wind up closing Birdsboro, I would have to think that initially space at Monocacy would be pretty limited with the increase in kids over there. I could be wrong, but so might not be all that much space over there to hold it.
Where's this?
It is say we transferred, say we kept pre-K counts, but we closed Birdsboro and then wanted to move it to Monocacy. I'm not sure there'd be room there.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, so once we, so anyway, I just wanted to have the conversation, put it on the radar. So because I think last year when we approved this, I don't think that question came up, and I think the board assumed that was, I don't know what the board assumed, but
I think at the time it was public service.
yeah. So. And my other item was this the peach jar. Since I was not a proponent of it to begin with. I had asked Mr. Small if he had any information on it, because I know we did have some complaints from some of the local groups about the cost to use the peach jar. But I also wondered because As I've seen on, I get the ones for the high school, and I've seen obviously folks that are for profit in some extent, that they're selling their goods that have been advertised through Peach Jar. So I'm curious as to where that money that is being charged is going to. Is that going
Peach
to
Jar.
the school?
Peach Jar. My understanding, after you gave me the question the other night, I went to the secretary that handles it. The way the system works, you want to circulate a document, apply online with the attachment of what you want to send and to whom you want to send it. And it's $25, which you said, per distribution.
Per school? Per,
Or where, there's, you pick where you want it to land, so to speak. You want it to go to 3 elementaries, the way I understood it. That's 3 different groupings of emails. So that goes to Peach Jar. The application process comes in, she sends it to the superintendent for approval, superintendent signs off on it, she sends the information to Peach Jar sends it. The only benefit, if you will, to the district.
we're not spending
We're not charged.
manpower to distribute these things per se.
But how much are we using?
How many documents were on that sheet the other day? Probably, it's been,
I'll tell you right, it's probably a heck of a lot less than we used to do. Because I remember from elementary school, what used to come home in that Tuesday folder was a good amount of stuff sometimes.
I can scan you what she gave me in hard copy, shows you everything that's been
No,
done
I
this
don't need all
year.
that, I'm just curious. If it's benefiting us, okay. If there's no real benefit and it's,
The benefit to us is that we can use it for free as a district for any.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Do we use it enough to make it worthwhile?
I think it's been a disservice to the community. Because you would have a lot of the community groups that would bring in their, the old system would be you'd print out what you wanted to be included in, per se, the Tuesday folder, and you would drop it off and you would separate it. You would have bundles for each classroom. We got a bundle. You would have it separated and you would give it to the secretary, and then the secretary would put it into each classroom's mailbox.
They would do the breaking out.
The organization would break it into the packets, and there's still work on the school's part because obviously then you have to put it into each kid's folder, but they would break it into class sizes. So the other question is anybody, the folks that are using Peach Jar, the outside companies, is anybody even screening them, or is it just because there's been several kind of pushing their college services,
I scanned out.
those kind of things.
Be a scan question for the superintendent. He is the, according to Lisa, he is the final authority.
Okay. You guys out of breath already? Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I had. Short and sweet. Mr. Okos O'Neill, do you have anything you needed to bring up?
No.
Mr. Martino. Public comment. How's that? Short enough for you?
Short enough.
All right.
My voice may